Hey everyone, and welcome to this edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams, and my friend and my partner here, Chris King. Christopher, how are you?
Good, Jim. How are you?
I'm good. You were just talking about the amount of cash that's flowing freely amongst the NFL, specifically on two coasts. One end of Interstate 10 in Jacksonville, and the other at the other end of Interstate 10, the Chargers. So
Yeah, Jacksonville. I guess, like my friend Zig Fracassi said, the Jaguars. When you're a bad team, you have to overpay to get talent. Um, in the case of Jacksonville, I don't know if they're overpaying to get talent or just overpaying just to get people on the roster. Because explain to me in a world where Christian Kirk is worth $21 million a year when he's coming off a career year last year that only took place because DeAndre Hopkins was hurt and Larry Fitzgerald retired.
basically, the market bears what the market bears, right? It's whatever you're willing to pay. And teams will get antsy and fear that if they waited, they may not get who they want. So what they'll do, if you're Shea Khan, and he had that disaster last year, where Urban Meyer didn't even make it through the first year of his contract, then you end up paying. Now, going out to the other coast, out on the left coast, with the Chargers, I think they felt that they had the team that was close enough to winning that they would need to, all they'd need to do is add some pieces. And they kind of remade that team. Now, whether it's going to, pan out or not, we don't know, but we certainly will find out pretty quickly. And they're in the division where, Russell Wilson now is in Denver. Did they get better? Did they not? Just because Russell Wilson shows up doesn't mean they're going to win. And so I think that's a very interesting situation with regard to free agency. And of course, in baseball, we're watching, as everybody is, to see where some of these big name players land. And
speaking of, do you have any breaking news about any of that stuff? Have you
not
heard
really.
any buzz?
It was. We got a report yesterday about Freddie Freeman in Oakland, which didn't make any sense to me at all, because first of all, Oakland would never pay the kind of money it's going to take to get Freddie Freeman, number one. And number two, why would you go to Oakland for Freddie Freeman? It's not his kind of fit, which is no shade on the folks in Oakland. It's just that a matter of, the A's playing a ballpark that is cavernous, and that's not conducive to Freddie Freeman. So we'll see.
Now, and I see Tim is here. Tim, I wonder what you think about this as well. We've got Carlos Correa is out there. Apparently, he turned down a 10-year, $275 million deal from the Tigers. Will we see him go back to Houston? Will we see him end up somewhere else? And what's up with the Cincinnati Reds? We talked yesterday about them dealing Sonny Gray to the Twins. Then they turned around. They dealt Jesse Winker and Eugenio Suarez to the Mariners for a bunch of,
four guys
spare parts.
Yeah.
Are the Reds basically imploding already? Are they just mailing in the season? Are they going to try to battle the Pirates for, last place in the NL Central?
The NL Central, outside of, McCutchen went to Milwaukee. That's it's not a big deal, but it's an interesting deal, because he could be a good part there. But, is there anybody other than, I know you're a Cubs fan, and so you should know, is there anyone other than the Cardinals and the Brewers that that have the kind of roster it takes to compete for, not just the division title, but for a championship there?
Well, as it stands right now, probably not. But like you said, we're in the middle of free agency. Who knows who's going to end up where by the time this is all said and done? So things could change. The Cubs are they haven't punted on the season like they did last year. They they brought in Marcus Stroman, they brought in Wade Miley, so they at least have some semblance of a rotation. But they need to get some guys in the lineup. We'll see what happens with all that. The Pirates, they haven't been relevant since what?
95.
Well, I mean, they were in the wild card game, in 2015, but Jake Arrieta shut them down, and that was it for them.
So one and done.
Right, and now it seems the Reds are going down that path. I know that there's people already printing out shirts about how saying "sell the damn team, Bob," in reference to Bob Castellini, who owns Cincinnati. So apparently the fan base a little bit rankled by the recent transactions by the Reds. I mean, if you think about it, they put themselves in that situation to begin with. Paying Joey Votto all that money in a small market wasn't very smart. Nick Castellanos is still out there as a free agent. I don't know who you're going to see suiting up for the Reds this year. Maybe other than Nick Senzel and maybe Jonathan India, but I guess they're already talking about dealing Luis Castillo as well, the pitcher. Not to be confused with Luis Castillo, the former second baseman.
True. There's a fallacy, Chris, and the fallacy is that small markets can't pay money.
This is true.
They can. And most of the time, the problem is that they have crappy, which is a technical term, the organization is a mess, okay? Look at the Dodgers. Look at the successful teams, the Cardinals, the Cubs at times.
I don't want to talk about the Cardinals as a successful franchise.
What's that?
I don't want to talk about the Cardinals as a successful franchise.
It's hard not to talk about them. My point being this. They understand the importance of spending money in the farm systems, developing players, okay? They also understand the importance of spending money in the international pool, right? So that you can get the guys from the Dominican, you can get the guys from Japan if there are players from Japan or Korea or the Far East. They know how to work that portal. Houston has done that. San Francisco has done it to a lesser extent. You see it in Detroit and some of the other cities. But at the end of the day, that's where you can spend all the money you want to. If it's not being spent wisely, then you're just spending money. And I mean, you can't get any more austere than the Tampa Bay Rays.
Right.
Okay? Yet year in and year out, the Rays compete. Why is that? They constantly have and this is not a team that finishes low enough to continually get good draft picks. They just pick wisely. And they understand the importance of how to draft the team. It's a Billy Beane's, situation with regard to Moneyball, right?
Right. And speaking of Billy Beane, Jim, Michael asked, any thoughts about the A's not getting a stadium and moving to Vegas?
All right, let me clue you on this. Okay. Major League Baseball got their CBA done. Okay. The next two big things for them is to secure a baseball stadium in the Bay Area in Tampa and a baseball stadium in the area in San Francisco. Now, why would they do that? Why not move teams? Okay, here's why. By the way, the Oakland A's have been for sale for 40 years. Okay, I can remember in 1977 or 78, they were purchased by a guy by the name of Frank Morsanti in Tampa, and they were supposedly moving to Tampa. That was almost 40 years ago. Okay, so they've been up for sale and moving for a long time. Here's the reason why this is important. Vegas and probably Nashville are the two franchise areas where Major League Baseball wants to go. If they sell them, new franchises, in other words, expansion teams, which would expand the league to 32 teams. Each one of those franchises, a franchise in, a franchise in Vegas and a franchise in Nashville, will bring them each north of $3 billion with a B, dollars. Okay, so that's $6
I can see
billion.
putting a franchise in Nashville.
I'm just saying that's this trendy pick at the moment.
Is it? I hadn't heard that. That's why it seems strange to me, because Nashville doesn't seem like it's that big of a city.
Well, it's not, but it's there. It's becoming a much bigger city, and it's 5 years ago it would probably have been Charlotte, okay, but not anymore. It's Nashville's gravitating, and it's done very well with its pro sports teams, which and there's money in Nashville.
Michael said, "What about Portland instead of Nashville?"
Portland. You're not going to get two West Coast things, and right now Vegas is the hot topic. Portland won't build a stadium, so there's that. Portland's a great basketball town. I'll put you there. They're a good soccer town. They've had tremendous success there. They had pretty decent AAA situations in Portland. So no shade on Portland, but Oakland has had numerous occasions to go to Portland, and they didn't. And there was time that would be it. But right now, Vegas is where the money is, literally. And so there you go. I mean, look at what they did with the Raiders. They built a stadium for the Raiders that, was in excess of $1 billion. They built the T-Mobile Center, which is where the hockey team plays, the Golden Knights. They're ready to pony up for a brand new baseball stadium. The only other place in the country on the east of the Mississippi that's willing to do that, seemingly right now, is Nashville, which is why Nashville is there. So don't look for Tampa Bay to move. Don't look for, the A's to move, because baseball makes no money if those teams move to those markets. And what does that do? If Oakland were to move to Vegas, that closes down a potential that basically pulls $3 billion out of their pocket. Okay.
What about Montreal?
Montreal has been a very odd duck for them. The problem with Montreal is the same problem they have with Toronto, right? You have an exchange rate. So where do the players live? Where do the players get paid? Where are they taxed? If I'm an American player and I go and play in Canada, do I get paid in Canadian dollars? Do I get paid in U.S. dollars? So there is an issue there. I would love to see. Montreal is a fantastic baseball city. I would love to see them build a stadium downtown, and they would fill it to the brim. But
and Tim said he wants a team in Raleigh.
Forget that, Tim. You got a team in Raleigh. It's called North Carolina State. And you're not that far from the hockey franchise, but you have to have a TV market, number one. And you have to have corporate money. That's number two. Those are the two biggest things. Why Vegas? Look at how many hotels on the Strip and organizations are willing to buy season tickets and buy the luxury suites. I mean, that's business of sports is business of sports, okay? And that's where the money is. They don't, they're going to get the fans, but they need the money from the corporate people. If there's no corporate there, and if there's no TV market, then there's no reason to move. But
this is what Tim said about NC State.
Well, there you go.
And Allie stopped by.
Hey, Allie. So yeah, I mean, Vegas is the hot place to go. I would suggest that they're probably better off getting their own brand new franchise and waiting for something to happen with Oakland. Oakland does have a stadium situation on the waterfront there that may or may not make it. We'll find out. But Oakland's been on the market for 40 years. There's been 40 years of the Oakland A's moving somewhere. They're still there. And once the Tampa Bay situation settles down, We'll see. But I do think that Vegas will get a franchise sooner as opposed to later. But I think, with that kind of money on the table, that they would prefer, the league would prefer to do it. It's also one last thing before we get out here. Moving franchises in Major League Baseball is far more difficult than it is in any other sport because they have a full-on agreement with the government from the standpoint of the why am I blanking on this stupid agreement? It's the antitrust agreement, the Sherman Antitrust Act. In baseball, in football, in basketball, and in 1961, President Kennedy signed an agreement which gave limited antitrust so that the National Football League, the NHL, and the NBA could go out and get the television rights and put them together as one. Obviously, we've seen with Al Davis was the first in the NFL to make the move from Oakland down to Los Angeles and back again, that you can move franchises. Obviously, the NBA's done it. Major League Baseball has moved 16 franchises since 1900, and 3 of them have been Washington. So
the good old Washington Senators.
Yeah.
First in war, first in peace, and last in the American League.
Last in the American League. So there you go. All right, way too much than you wanted to know, but we got a whole bunch of stuff here that we really need to get going on business-wise, and then we'll come back and have fun with the show. Let's see. You know what? Let's start with BetMGM. Why? Because we can. BetMGM is going to give new customers a risk-free bet on your first sports wager up to $8,000. Only new players are eligible for this bonus, and it must be claimed within 7 days of signing up. Now, once you create an account and make your first deposit, place any real money bet between $10 and $1,000, and the folks at BetMGM will match that bet dollar for dollar. All of the information on is in the show box below. Be sure to remember that you must be 21 years of age to participate. And as Christopher and I always say, please bet responsibly. Now, we'll have another promotion from our buddies at MGM in just a little while. But we got stuff to do here, and that is we have a really cool thing going with our network, and that is that 2 things. 1, we're giving away free things. 2 of them. First, we're giving away a bet on the March Madness book, which was compiled by all the writers at Winners and Whiners, including my buddy over here, Chris King. And that's available to you free. Also, you have a chance to win up to $1,000 in a bracket challenge. Okay, now there's going to be $2,000 given away, $1,000 to the winner. All that's free, and all of it, including the BetMGM, and all of that's in our show box below. So visit the show box below. I know it'll say show more. Hit show more, and you'll see all the fun stuff that we got going on. So without any further ado, let us, speaking of Montreal, let's move forward to the National Invitational Tournament, and here we go.
Yeah, we got Utah State and Oregon. This line has actually moved. I just looked. It went from 5 to 4, which is always good for if you're taking the favorite. I don't know what happened to Oregon this season. Everybody thought they were going to be good, and then Dana Altman's teams kind of fell off a cliff down the stretch. They lost 5 of their last 6 in the regular season. They did get a win in the Pac-12 tournament, but they beat Oregon State. And I'm pretty sure we could put together a team of our crew here and beat Oregon State because they've just been terrible all year. Then they lost to Colorado. So Oregon has fallen off a cliff. Utah State, they were playing better down the stretch. They're at home here. They're only 9-6 at home, but Oregon's only 5-5 on the road. Oregon 145th in scoring offense, 1/10 in field goal percentage. They're only 2/10 in threes and 209th in three-point shooting, and they are terrible at the free throw line at 67.7%. Meanwhile, Utah State 113th in scoring offense, 73.5 points per game. They're 21st in field goal percentage 8th in 2-point shooting at 57.1, 151st in 3-point percentage and in free throw percentage. Oregon 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 overall, 1-4 in their last 5 on the road against teams with a winning home record, 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 on the road. Utah State 4-1 in their last 5 overall, and 8-3-1 in their last 12 on Tuesday. I look for Justin Bean to be a big factor in this game for the Aggies. He was pretty much a double-double machine all year long. And with Brandon Horvath and Stephen Ashworth and Rylan Jones and everybody's favorite name, RJ Idle Rock, not to be confused with, Smooth Jazz. But in the end, I think
Jailhouse Rock.
There you go. Or Fraggle Rock.
Right, exactly. Or the Rock. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But I think Utah State, they're too balanced offensively. Ryan Odom, his team got better down the stretch. They did have a skid in February, but 3 of the 4 losses that he had in that stretch were to Wyoming, San Diego State, and Boise State. Those teams all obviously playing in March Madness. I like Utah State here. I just can't trust Oregon after the way they fell apart down the stretch.
Well, thank God they're not playing it in Eugene, because that basketball court gives me, motion sickness. It's just, I get that it's a piece of art, which is lovely, but you don't see people running up and down in the Mona Lisa. So please. All right.
So you get this one in Logan, so
you're
safe from that.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. Hey, Utah State has been helpful to us throughout the season. So good on them for coming through, and goodbye Ducks. So the Aggies.
That's the hope.
Yeah, we'll be moving on. Speaking of moving on, where we go next?
We're going to go to the Palouse out there at the really long name of Friel Court at Beasley Coliseum in Pullman.
Wow.
As Santa Clara, Herb Sendek and the boys from the West Coast Conference go to Washington State to face the Cougars.
There you go.
Santa Clara 21-11. They were 10-5 in the West Coast Conference. Washington State, they were 11-9 in the Pac-12, 12-7 at home. This one's going to be a relatively entertaining game on the offensive end.
Mm-hmm.
The Broncos 31st in scoring offense at 78.1 points a game. They're 7th in field goal percentage at 49%. They're 49th in 2-point percentage. They're 7th in 3-point shooting at 38.8%. They're 27th in free throw shooting. They're going to face a Washington State team that's decent on the defensive end of the floor. So the question is, can they contain everybody that Santa Clara can throw at you offensively? Washington State is a middle-of-the-road team on the offensive end, but they're just 319th in field goal percentage at 41%. They shoot 46.5% from 2. They're 173rd in 3-point percentage. Now, Santa Clara has their struggles defensively, but when you're running and gunning with teams like San Francisco and BYU and Gonzaga on a nightly basis, you're going to have your issues on that end of the floor. I just like Santa Clara getting the points here. They're 5-0 again in their last 5 overall. They're 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 after an ATS win. They're 5-1 in their last 6 as an underdog. Washington State 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 at home. I'll take the points and the Broncos.
And no love for the Pac-12.
Well, I mean, look how mediocre the Pac-12 was all season. They've only got 3 teams in the tournament.
I wasn't, by the way, suggesting that we give them love. I was simply stating something obvious, and that was, as my job is as Captain Obvious, that's where it is. That they're not getting. Hey, Ryan's got a question for you there, Chris. As we get ready to go to the NHL, Sharks.
God, I hate that.
Ryan,
I hate that parlay. I'm going to be perfectly honest. As good as the Sharks you may think they are at home, they're 14-13-3.
At the Tank.
So they're 1 game above 500 at the Tank. Florida's 14-7-6 on the road. You're going to see Bobrovsky and net. You're not getting the benefit of Spencer Knight or Jonas Johansson or insert name from the past here. It's tough to contain Florida's offense. I mean, they lead the league in goals per game. They lead the league in shots per game. San Jose is just 28th in those categories. I know that Florida's a middle-of-the-road team on the defensive end, but the Sharks are worse than Florida in those departments. They're 20th in goals against, they're 21st in shots allowed. Meanwhile, Florida's 14th and 13th in those categories. The last thing that San Jose wants to do in this game is go to the penalty box because, you don't want to give anybody a free chance to put the puck in the net with a man advantage. I just can't. I've watched the Sharks. I know they beat the Kings the other day. I know they beat the Kings twice, but I also watched them lose to Anaheim in overtime, and I watched them lose 8-0 to Nashville in the tank last week. Now,
Which
I get
is what
Florida.
they were in the tank, yes.
Yeah, I know Florida's not a great team on the road. I know they lost to the Kings the other day in a shootout in Los Angeles, but you have to consider that before that they came in winning 5 straight games. I'm looking at going back recently. Florida's won 7 of the last 8 meetings with the Sharks, including the last 4 in that building, going back to 2017. As much as I know you like the Sharks, Ryan, I can't back them here. I'm going to take Florida, and on the other one, I think I went with Colorado, just because the Avs are kind of pissed off about the way they've been playing lately. They just picked up Josh Manson from Anaheim to bolster that blue line group, which is going to be a big boost for them. I know it's their weak point right now, but I don't have faith in the Kings, seeing how inconsistent they've been, and I can't trust the Sharks. I see they're going to start James Reimer because Aiden Hill is questionable or is out again with a lower body injury. But it's tough to go against the Panthers with Bob and that offense, even playing at home. So,
a quick question from Bill. He wants to know what you think about Corpus Christi or Texas Southern. He leans Southern, but I see a lot of people on Corpus Christi.
I like Southern. I mean, I like Texas Southern. We talked about them. Remember, they were 0-7 when they beat Florida in the Swamp.
Yeah, thanks. I remember beat Florida. Yes, I do.
Since then they've gone 18-5. Johnny Jones, he's done a great job with that team. I know there are a lot of people that are high on Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. I watched part of the game the other day where they played Southeastern Louisiana. For running as fast of a track meet as they did, they only scored 73 points because they turned the ball over a lot. And I know that's a common thing in some of these smaller conferences. You see a lot of turnovers. Obviously A&M Corpus Christi coming out of the Southland, the Texas Southern coming out of the SWAC, but it's hard to argue with a team that, has now won 13 of 15. And like I said, they've gone 18-5 since starting 0-7. And Texas Southern is good on the defensive end of the floor, which is something you don't normally think about with some of these teams that like to run and gun, but they're 13th in effective field goal percentage. They're 17th in 3-point defense, and they're 23rd in 2-point defense. I like Texas Southern. I just think that, Corpus Christi, they've used up all their goodwill getting out of the Southland tournament. I think Texas Southern probably could have been a 15 seed. But
probably.
Unfortunately,
Not
this tends to be the way you see. This tends to be what you see happen in these 16 seed play-in games. But I'm gonna roll with the Tigers here. I mean, I've been on Texas Southern for a while. I'm gonna continue to go with them here.
Let's take some hockey questions before we jump over there. Matthews heading to the Preds game tonight. Do we give him a chance to beat the Pens?
Depends which version of the Pens show up.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we've seen them. Well, and you catch a break because it was originally going to be Tristan Jerry between the pipes. It's now going to be Casey DeSmith.
Ryan wants us to know that the Preds are at home.
Yep, they are. UC Saros is in net for Nashville. So that works in their favor because DeSmith, he hasn't played much this year, and he's definitely not Tristan Jerry. I would give Nashville a decent shot here. The question is, will they be able to contain, Crosby and company? But I give Nashville a fair shot here, especially with DeSmith being in between the pipes. I just don't like him as much as I like Tristan Jerry. Jerry was in net as originally planned, I would probably have leaned towards Pittsburgh. But with the Smith, I give Saros the edge in net over him by a pretty good margin. So
You're welcome, Bill, anytime. Moving on to you for buddy. Can we trust Vegas?
God.
You're not helping yourself, buddy.
Can you trust Vegas? Well, let's see. They're going to go
You
with
could.
Brissett. They're going to start with Brissett probably against Connor Hellebuyck. Winnipeg is another team that goes up and down and up and down.
They're
And
schizophrenic.
you can't really trust what they're going to do from any given day. As far as can you trust Vegas, sure, you can trust anybody if you're willing to,
Ryan's shifting in here for you, Ufer. So Vegas has screwed me so many times.
It's like you can trust anyone, but are you willing to put your head in a lion's mouth hoping that he won't bite it off? I mean, you just look at it,
Take the
Vegas has shaky goaltending right now with Leonard out.
Yeah.
I mean, they've lost 4 in a row. They lost to Columbus the other day. They lost to Buffalo and Philadelphia last week.
They're in a
those were all road games. Their road trip comes to an end here. You'd hope to think that they could salvage something.
We'll see.
Would I really trust them? No. Could you potentially trust them? Sure. Would I put money on it? No.
No. And so let's go to games where we might put some money, and that here in the NHL, the Caps and the Isles, a matchup of, a team that Barry Trotz took to a Stanley Cup.
Right, and a team that struggles to score that he coaches now. And this game is, of course, at the Capital One Arena, just down the street from my esteemed colleague Jim Williams. He can see it out the window.
I'm looking in there. Yes.
It'll be the Islanders 24-24-8. They're 10-12-4 on the road. The Capitals still trying to chase down Boston for the top wild card spot in the East if they can't catch the Rangers, who currently hold the final guaranteed spot in the Metropolitan. It'll be Ilya Sorokin, 20-12-7 with a 233 goals against, a 925 save percentage, and 6 shutouts in net for the Isles against Ilya Samsonov. I don't know why I typed Sorokin twice. That's what happens when it's late at night. You just see the same names that look almost exactly the same. Sorokin 17-9-4 with a 296 goals against, a 901 save percentage, and 3 shutouts. The big difference here comes offensively. The Islanders still just 24th in goals for at 2.7. They're 6th in goals against at 2.71. Caps, meanwhile, tied for 9th at 3.25 goals a game, 9th in goals against at 2.78. Caps 4-1 in their last 5 overall, 4-1 in their last 5 on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the Islanders 5-22 in their last 27 against teams with a winning record. They're 5-21 in their last 6, or 26 as an underdog. 1-6 in their last 7 as a road underdog, 0-4 in their last 4 meetings in Washington, and 0-4 in their last 4 meetings with the Caps overall. I know the Islanders have won a few in a row, and everybody's like, "Ooh, look at that! We're back to 500." Well, guess what? Now you're not.
Ryan, thanks for asking. I'm not going to get to the game tonight, but I appreciate the thought. The Capitals have just
wants to save money on beer.
Yeah, exactly. The point that I'll make real quick on the Capitals is they just had a pretty decent road trip. They went out
to Vancouver.
They played some tough teams on the road, and they picked up points, and that's all you can ask for when you go on the road, and specifically go on the road against some tough Canadian teams. So Ryan's saying $17 beers. Tell you what, Ryan, there's not a beer on the planet that I'm paying $17 for. So there you go.
Not even Schlitz Ice?
No. Or not Schlitz Ice House. But
what about Old Style?
Nope, not a beer drinker. So there you go. The Caps have been playing well, and Barry Trotz, he knows the Caps. There's no question about that. But I'll tell you what, I don't see how he's going to stop Washington from scoring. So there you go. and we'll see. All right, that's what it is at the Golden Knights game, huh? So I
Well,
thought
it's Vegas. They figure you're already spending money anyway.
well, yeah, they figure they're comping you drinks at the casino. Why not? They're going to charge you for the beer. All right, so from downtown DC, where last we left Pete Medhurst, now we move on to
Now we're gonna go to Manhattan.
Manhattan.
Gonna go to the most famous barn there is out there in Madison Square Garden.
Just six. You go into Penn Station, take the elevator up 6 flights, and guess what? You're right there.
Yeah, the Rangers at home over the Ducks. The Ducks, they've kind of fallen off of late. They're 27, 25, and 10, kind of puts them back behind a bunch of other teams in the chase for a wild card spot in the West. And the Rangers have been very good at home this year, 19-5-3. John Gibson, 17, 18, and 8 with a 303 goals against, a 906 save percentage, and 1 shutout is expected to start for the Ducks against Igor Shesterkin, 29-7-3 with a 207 goals against, a 938 save percentage, and 3 shutouts for the Rangers. The Ducks are 21st in goals for at 2.84. They're 19th in goals against, 3.1. Meanwhile, the Rangers, despite being a mediocre team on the offensive end of the ice, they're third in goals against with 2.58. Meanwhile, the Ducks 0-5 in their last 5 games against the Metropolitan Division. They're 0-4 in their last 4 overall. They're 0-4 in their last 4 on the road. Meanwhile, the Rangers 10-3 in their last 13 on 2 days of rest. 39-12 in their last 51 as a favorite. The Ducks have struggled against the Rangers of late, 1-4 in their last 5 meetings, and they've dropped their last 6 at Madison Square Garden. With the way we've seen the Ducks fade lately, you have to think that Shesterkin picks up his 30th win of the year and leads the Rangers to a victory.
Well, the Rangers are playing good hockey, and much as it pains me to say that, they are, and the blue shirts are doing well. So it's tough to go into the Garden and win anytime, and I don't. There haven't been many times that Anaheim's been there and came away a winner. So.
And look at that, Jim. G Money says micheladas are $30 at Dodger Stadium.
Whoa, what's $30 at Dodger Stadium?
A michelada.
Oh, eesh. There's another good. Buy the Dodger dog and a Coke, and save yourself a lot of money. Farmer Jack's Dodger dogs. Okay, as Vin Scully would say. We're getting ready to go to the NBA, and this is our Bet MGM second promotion coming up here, and this is the fun one. Okay, use your Bet MGM app, then place a bet of at least $10 on any NBA game, and you get $200 if either team hits a 3-pointer. So click on the link below. Take advantage of it. Again, you must be 21 years of age to play, and always wager responsibly. Okay, so we're going to go to the hardwood, Christopher, and let's see who is playing tonight.
Well, speaking of the NBA, I don't know if you saw any of the games last night, Jim, where Karl Anthony Towns dropped an NBA season high 60 on the Spurs in a game where defense was optional. It looked like an all-star game. The final score was 149-139 in favor of Minnesota.
The funny thing is when you say that, when Anthony dropped 60, the next question is the old, line from the Mets. They scored, 20 runs today, but did they win? So in this case, he scores 60, but you have to ask the question, did they win? Clearly they did. But you're right. Defense was optional in that game, and if you like scoring, that was a track meet where people actually, were hitting the basket.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was 75-73 at the half.
At the half,
I was like, what the hell is this?
Is it a typo?
I thought it was. To answer Bill's question about the North Texas state line, it's down to 118 for the total. That's
who's favored?
North Texas is favored by 9. I mean, we know North Texas does not like to run by any stretch of the imagination. We saw that game where we talked about it last week, where it was 42-36 was the final. I think 118 probably is going to be a little too low. I know Ken Palm has it pegged out at about 128 or 121, I should say. Just looking at the last few numbers for Texas State, their last 5 games, they had 151, 118, 107, 127, and 151. And that's coming from a team that's 337th in tempo at 63.7 possessions game. Meanwhile, if you look at Texas or North Texas, they make Virginia look like a fast-paced offense. They're dead last in the country at 59 possessions a game. Their last 5 games, 105, 107, 138, 118, and 78.
Oof.
That's right, 78.
So there you go. So we're going to Indianapolis, huh? To watch the Pacers play the Grizz. Now, the Grizz, if you've watched our show, the Grizz have been very good to us. As Chico Escuela from Saturday Night Live used to say, baseball's been very, very good to me. Well, the Memphis Grizzlies have been very, very good to us.
And the Indiana Pacers have been very, very good to everyone else because they just like to lose.
Fade the Pacers, yes.
Yeah, as our good friend Elliot likes to say, fade the Pacers. It's kind of like fading the Lakers,
right?
And fading the Lakers was a brilliant move yesterday because for the second straight game they failed to show up in the first quarter. I looked at the stats at the end of the first quarter of that game yesterday. It was 33-12, but the Lakers were 3 of 25 from the floor and 0 of 13 from 3. Makes you wonder, why were they trying to shoot them?
Yeah, I think that the over-under on the amount of autographs signed by LeBron James during pre-game was more points than he scored. So there you go.
Now, I know the big thing with this one with Memphis is that Ja Morant is doubtful with the sore back. But you've got Dylan Brooks back now, which is a nice boost for them because Brooks had missed an extended period of time. Meanwhile, I'm looking at the Pacers injury report, and it is lengthy. Miles Turner and T.J. Warren are obviously still out, so is T.J. McConnell. But Lance Stevenson, Chris Duarte, Malcolm Brogdon, and Goga Bitadze are all questionable. Let's face it, this could be missing seemingly half their lineup and still blow out Indiana because the Pacers just have been horrible on the defensive end of the floor. 25th in scoring defense, 26th in field goal percentage defense, 24th against the 3. Meanwhile, Memphis is averaging 114.4 points a game, and they like to run. The Grizz are 9-0 against the spread in their last 9 on Tuesday. They're 9-2 in their last 11 after an ATS loss. They're 8-2 in their last 10 on the road against teams with a losing home record. Meanwhile, Indiana's 2-7 in their last 9 against teams with a winning record, and 1-4 in their last 5 as a home underdog. I know that this line might move if they rule Morant out. Let me just see if there's been any movement yet. It actually went from 7 to 7.5, so it's still at 7.5. Even without Morant, I think Memphis should win this one comfortably. I just don't have any faith in a Pacers team that has basically given up the way it looks on a nightly basis.
Not a good plan. Hey, let's do a little more business here. And this one has to do with our buddy over there. This way. Yeah, that way. Chris King. And, that Chris will send you his best plays every day because he usually makes it up of 2 teams, 4 teams, or even greater. Now, not every time are you going to win. We know that. We say it all the time. But the thing is, Chris does win often. In the last 3 weeks, he has had 2 6-2-team parlays, 2 14 parlays, 1 6-team parlay, and 2 8-team parlays, earning one. If you bet $100, you could win over 30,000. Now, Chris, you hit a 10 last.
Yeah, we had a 10 on the show last week. It would have turned $100 into over 56,000.
Right. So
And it turned out yesterday with the player props, we hit
Yeah.
9 out of 10 out of those. So, I mean, the only one that didn't cash was, thanks, Tim, Nikola Jokic. Didn't go over 46.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He was the one holdout that ruined it for everybody. He didn't even put up a triple-double either.
Yeah. So as we said, we just want you to know that that's what you need to do. Go to the show box below. All the fun promos we talked about, including what we just talked about with Chris. The link's in there. Click it and set yourself up to get some really cool stuff from Chris, okay? So, all right, let's talk one more time about this March Madness deal we're doing. The experts at the Handicappers at Winners and Whiners are offering sports betting guide for the NCAA Tournament, featuring insight, articles, and how to avoid the traps. Now, we find value plays, and the most importantly, we make the right bets, okay? Sign up today, get it directly in your inbox the moment it comes out hot, and not a problem. Now, but wait, there's more. We have a free bracket contest where you can win up to $1,000. Now, we know that you're already going to put together some brackets for your office pool or just with a bunch of friends. They're not going to pay out anywhere close to $2,000. That's right. Because what happens here is we have this option where you're going to have this opportunity to win $1,000 if you are the number one in the pool. And there's prizes that total up to $2,000 for 5 additional people who come close to the top. So plenty of opportunity. All the information is in our show box below. Please take advantage of all of the promotions we've talked about today, whether it's BetMGM or whether, of course, it's the Max Wagers, Picks and Parlays, and Winners and Whiners event with March Madness, which we just talked about. Okay? So please do that for us. We greatly would appreciate it. Let's go 4-2 for the money, my friend. Where are we going tonight?
Jim, you left out the other NBA game. We only did one.
We're going to go back to the NBA. That's the Suns and the Pelicans.
This line's actually moved down to 4.5 now in favor of the Suns after word came out that CJ McCollum has emerged from the health and safety protocols. So he's supposed to be available tonight. Meanwhile, Brandon Ingram's still out for the Pelicans, which is a big blow for them. Nobody that you wouldn't expect for the Suns showing up on the line or showing up out. Cameron Johnson still out with that quad bruise. CP3 will be out until sometime in April is the current report, I believe, with that broken thumb. But let's face it, you don't get to be 54-14 by being lucky in the NBA. Suns 25-6 on the road. They're 5th in scoring offense. They're 6th in scoring defense. Meanwhile, they're facing a New Orleans team that's middle of the road in scoring defense at 109.9 points a game, but they're 22nd in scoring offense, and that's even with the addition of McCollum. Without Ingram, it's going to be a lot of the McCollum show, and that's going to be a problem for them tonight because the Suns clamped down pretty well on teams from the outside. They're first in the league in three-point defense at 33.5%. Meanwhile, the Suns 4-1 against spread in their last 5 on the road against teams with a losing home record. The Pelicans 2-6 in their last 8 as a home underdog, and 1-4 in their last 5 overall. Let's not forget this is a New Orleans team that lost at home outright to Orlando last week. Yes, Orlando, not Tony Orlando, not Orlando and Dawn.
But Orlando.
The Orlando Magic, not Magic Johnson.
No. Or nothing Magic, actually. If you look at that top line, right, 25-6 on the road, that pretty much tells you all you need to know about how good the Phoenix Suns are.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think, is Monty Williams basically a runaway for Coach of the Year at this point?
Well, it's hard not to say that he should get it. He's performed admirably, as has his team. So yeah, there's no reason to believe he wouldn't be certainly on the short list for sure for that. So all right, tell you what, let's go for 2 for the money now that I've cut out a little too soon on that one. We talked about the Caps and Islands, Phoenix.
Yep, we talked about the Caps already over the Islanders. We talked about the Suns just a second ago. We've talked about Memphis. I think even without Morant, they should be able to take care of Indiana. And the Rangers and the Ducks, let's face it, the Ducks are going nowhere fast but down. And pretty soon it's going to be a death spiral. You have to wonder, will they deal guys like Hampus Lindholm? Will they deal anyone else before the deadline, which is coming up, next week, I believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they're not in good shape here. Meanwhile, the Rangers looking for a home win so they can maintain that third spot in the Metropolitan. I look for them to get the win. Matt says he'd like to see Taylor Jenkins, the coach of the Grizzlies, be considered for Coach of the Year. I'm sure he'll get some votes. I just don't know if he'll supplant Monty Williams.
Yeah, it's he's on that short list. You got to think, and because they've overperformed. There might even be a few votes there for Eric Spoelstra for what he's done with Miami. Billy Donovan, what he's done in Chicago. So there's some names that are going to be on the list, that's for sure. So let's go for 4 for the show.
Hold on, UTEP is off the board because that game with Western Illinois has been postponed until Saturday due to travel issues for Western Illinois. So that game will come back up over the weekend. It'll take place, like I said, on Saturday. Speaking of travel issues, there was a big travel issue yesterday. As of early this morning, or late last night out in Colorado, Colorado State had yet to get a travel itinerary from the NCAA about getting there to Indianapolis for their first round matchup with Michigan. Caused a big stir on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where some Michigan fans were saying that they hoped that they wouldn't get an itinerary and Colorado State would have to withdraw from the tournament. Just shows how much faith Michigan fans have in their own team here. But
the NCAA makes the plans. You are with the conference, so. What happens in that case?
They didn't get their itinerary until about 1:00 this morning.
No. What I'm saying is, you're right. I'm just saying that the screw up was at the NCAA offices.
Right.
That's where it all goes. And so, when you don't get a travel itinerary till long past the time you're supposed to get out of town, that it does make it tough. But fortunately, they didn't have to sit around the airport waiting for this to happen. So there's that.
That's true.
So there's that. So all right, let's go for 4 for the show.
Yeah, we've got, like I said, Utah State -5 over Oregon. Brooklyn -9.5 over Orlando. I think that line actually bumped up a little bit. It is now. I'm just going to double check because I've got the page up here. It is now 10.5. I know Orlando hung tough against Philadelphia over the weekend, and before that they beat Minnesota and New Orleans. But Brooklyn, we just saw Kevin Durant completely light up the Knicks on Sunday. He'll have Kyrie Irving tonight. I like to think that the Nets can, beat up Orlando. If they want to be put back that they're actually, going to be a relevant contender in the postseason, they need to beat teams like Orlando convincingly. Well, we talked about the Sharks already, much to the chagrin of Ryan. I'm going to go with the Panthers. I have more faith in Bobrovsky and the offense than I do in James Reimer and San Jose's offense. And then the Bruins, they're playing the front game of a back-to-back here. They'll go to Minnesota tomorrow. We'll talk more about that one tomorrow, I'm sure. I'm going to go with the Bruins here over the Blackhawks. I believe it's Linus Ullmark going to get the start tonight against, of course, Marc-Andre Fleury, who is still being bandied about in trade speculation around probably half the league.
It might not be odd to see him end up back in. I know that the Caps are interested, but it might not be odd to see him end up back in Vegas. If they're
I don't
having
know if
some,
Vegas can afford him with the way they've had to play, cap hockey to try and fit Eichel in there when they put Stone on IR.
right?
So I don't know if they'd have the money to take him on.
No, we'll have to see. Maybe they
They'd
can
have to
get,
ship something out. I don't know if they want to ship anything out of value to a team like the Blackhawks.
no, we'll have to check it out. That's for sure. All right, so let's go. We got the Nets, we got the Panthers. We already talked about the Panthers. Bruins and the Hawks.
Yep, we just talked about that.
Mm-hmm. So let's go to the menu.
All right. Yeah, I know that someone was asking about this originally with Belmont. This line has actually come down from when I put this together because now I see Vanderbilt is only favored by 2. It opened at 4.5. A lot of people tracking on Belmont. It's going to be a battle at schools from Nashville. So, I mean, how about that, Jim? You were talking about that the other day where you were talking about Vanderbilt, Tennessee. Now you get Belmont, Vanderbilt.
Yeah, it's about a 20-minute drive. So that shouldn't take them long to get there.
Yeah, Casey Alexander's team, they're a senior-laden team. I like what Vanderbilt did down the stretch. They played well in the SEC tournament. But this is a Belmont team that is, they're battle tested. They've been here before. They've been to the NCAA tournament. They've got a ton of seniors. It's the last run for Nick Muszynski, who seems like he's been there forever. Grayson Murphy, Luke Smith. The future's still bright for Belmont. They've still got some guys up and coming. But, it's tough to go into a building like this, but I think they won't be intimidated by Vanderbilt. They've already played LSU. I know they got killed in that game, but they beat Drake. They beat Iona. They hung tough against Dayton. They beat Furman. I'm gonna lean towards Belmont here, and I'm getting points. So I mean, I liked it better at 4, but 2's better than nothing. Cleveland State, good old Cleveland State. Dennis Gates, there's rumors that he could end up somewhere else, but getting 12.5 points against a Xavier team that, God, what the hell happened to them at the end of the season? Travis Steele, they were coasting along. They were, 14-3, and then they go 4-10 down the stretch, including blowing a game against Butler where you led by 6 or 7 in the final minute of regulation, only to lose in overtime in the first round of the Big East tournament. Guess what? That's what knocked you out of the tournament altogether because you couldn't beat Butler. Sure, Xavier's probably going to win this game. Do I think they're going to win by double digits? No. I just can't put faith in a Xavier team that has been brutal. And I mean brutal. You give up 89 points to Butler. Hell, you let Georgetown score 75 points. Georgetown, who won no games in the Big East.
Yeah.
Just look at their numbers down the stretch. They gave 86 to St. John's. They gave up 99 to Providence. They gave 82 to Seton Hall. They gave 81 to St. John's again. They gave 89 to Butler. Cleveland State, they shoot the ball well. And, they're going to make things tough. I think, like I said, Xavier will win the game. But I will lean towards Cleveland State. Wyoming, I like Wyoming. I know Bryce asked about that earlier. I know Indiana had a charmed run in the tournament, in the Big Ten tournament. They came back. They beat Michigan. They knocked off Illinois. Then they lost at the buzzer, basically, to Iowa. But, this is a Wyoming team we've been on all season long. If there's one thing we know Wyoming. We know Graham Ike. We know Hunter Maldonado. We know Xavier Dussel. All those guys are going to battle. Indiana, this is the first time they've been in a tournament in a while because, that Archie Miller, that team didn't have any success under him. I know Mike Woodson's a good coach. I just don't know if I can count on Indiana, especially with how clanky they are from the perimeter. I'll take the points there, too. VCU, -6.5 over Princeton. It's tough to beat VCU at home or in Richmond, let's be honest. Princeton struggled against Yale. They had their hands full with Cornell. I'm going to go with the Rams. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that on this next one, I don't think that the Pistons are going to win outright. Not going to lie. but I will take 13.5 points and be happy about it. Knowing Allie, she'll tease us up to 18 or 19 points.
Well, I was going to say, yeah. It'll be 27 points by the time.
And Lenny would probably say that the Pistons will win anyway. I'll take the points. I don't think they're going to win outright, though. I think Miami should win, probably by 8 to 10. I look for the Grizzlies and Pacers to go over 234. Like we said, Memphis likes to run. They like to score. Indiana likes to give up points. It's like Oprah, you get some baskets, and you get some baskets, and you get some baskets, and everybody gets some baskets when you play the Pacers. Same token, I look for the Nets and Magic to go over. I think it's down to 230 now. It was 230.5. Let's face it, when Brooklyn is motivated, they can pile up points, and Orlando can give them up. Then the Avs over the Kings.
Orlando.
Yeah. Then the Avs over the Kings we talked about briefly before. I like the Oilers over the Red Wings. I can't put faith in the Red Wings after they gave up 9 goals to Arizona last week. And finally, the Canucks over the Devils. That game in British Columbia. I look for Bruce Boudreau's boys to get the win.
There you go. And they're getting close to the playoffs. So that's, they need to keep pushing the pedal to the metal and get there to get it done. At the end of the day, this is just a prelude to some upcoming NCAA action, which we're going to jump into. And
we'll have a bunch of that tomorrow, I would imagine.
Yeah, tomorrow we're going to have it, and then you're going to be seeing a lot of it between now and the end of the week and into the weekend. Remember that here on the Max Wagers Network, we've got coming. We've got, of course, our buddy Sean starts things off at noon. Allie's up at 1. We come back at 2. Then at 3, it's Scott and Scott. At 5, it's Lenny, Tim, and Nick. And we're all going to have focus on different regions. Allie's got the East. We've got the West. The Midwest goes to Scott and Scott, and the South goes to the boys, the law firm of Lenny, Tim, and Nick. So all that coverage. That's not to say we won't talk about other games or they won't talk about other games. We all will. But that's where you're going to find the in-depth coverage, okay? Don't forget to take the opportunity to check our show box below for all the great promotions that we have, the ones from BetMGM, the ones about how to get Chris's parlays, as well as, of course, the bracket information and contests that we're running, all of which is in the show box below. So please partake of it. Any final thoughts, any final questions before we get out of here on a Tuesday, Chris?
I think we're good. I think we hit on everything that was talked about.
Cade Cunningham looks out.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Cunningham was out. He was questionable with a non-COVID illness. Even still, it's such a big line that you'd like to think that Detroit can hang around anyway. Especially after seeing Miami lost to Minnesota after Minnesota lost to Orlando. So
it's guilt by association.
There you go.
So there you go. All right, folks. It's been fun. We've had a lot of interesting information, and we're going to get even more tomorrow. So join us at 2 o'clock Eastern time when we actually now will be able to dip our toe into the madness that comes in March and the NCAA tournament. We're going to try to find some gold mines for you there. Chris is working overtime to find some stuff going on in the West that will help you out. Okay.
And just remember, as the saying goes, beware the Ides of March.
That's true, because there's gonna be some upsets, and we're gonna try to steer you away from those pitfalls. But it's one of those games where you get into the March Madness brackets, and you can be busted out of the tournament real fast. As we said, Michigan probably will be. But we'll see how that plays out. So Anyway, Chris, final thoughts before we leave?
Just enjoy the first 4 games tonight, or if you're watching the NIT or the Basketball Classic, which is now the former CBI. Should be some entertaining hoops out there tonight.
All right. Okay, guys. We will see you tomorrow. We'll start talking NCAA tournament then. And until that time, I'm Jim Williams for Chris King saying so long. We'll see you tomorrow.